We have Dr. Ridely with us once again. Thank you, Dr. Ridely, for giving us the time. And first of all, I would like to congratulate you for your, I would say, a successful mission on Global Sumud Flotilla. And it was, I believe, a very good and a very brave initiative that everyone, every journalist, and every activist who was involved in that project took. And the plight of fellow Palestinians is something that we all need to be aware of, and the true picture of what is really happening in Gaza should come out, and people should know about it, because many of us are in a delusion that and are victims of false narratives being spread by the apartheid state of Israel. Dr. Riley, you were one of the captives of the Israeli Defense Forces, and you were taken by force by the Israeli forces. Can you tell us what was your experience like as a captive there, and what problems did you face?
Yes, it was a terrifying experience. We were kidnapped in international waters and taken back to Israel, held hostage. And I know that Israelis get upset when we use the word hostage, but what else do you call somebody who's been kidnapped? And I know they get upset about the word kidnapped, but to be kidnapped means to be taken by force. And not one member of that flotilla who ended up in Israel wanted to go to occupy Palestine. We all had our ambitions to go and sail into the port of Gaza and deliver aid. That was our humanitarian mission. And as I say, before we even got into Palestinian territorial waters, we were stopped in the Mediterranean Sea and taken against our will um, to Ashdod port. And from there, we were processed. Those of us who had any medication were divested of it, including inhalers, nebulizers. Anyone who had asthma had all their medicine taken away, heart pills, kidney pills, life-saving medicine. We were stripped of all of that. We were denied access to doctors and denied access to lawyers. This is all against international law. You know, the Israelis just can't help it. They have no respect for international law. They broke the Geneva Conventions, the Vienna Conventions, and so we were locked up. We, my particular cell number 9 in Kitsi prison, we were not allowed out. We had no exercise. We weren't allowed to shower. There were 15 of us sleeping on the floor on very thin mattresses like yoga mats. And there was nowhere to walk. You know, the room was just full of bodies. um, and there was one toilet. Many of us were on hunger strike, but when the food did come, it was crawling with ants. The bread was stale and on the verge of turning green. And so the food wasn't fit for human consumption. They kept us deprived of sleep. They would burst into our cells at 2 in the morning to do a head count. Obviously, at 2 in the morning, we would be asleep. And they would, 6 big, buff IDF soldiers would come in with their laser guns, and then another man would burst in and start to do a head count. And then they would go out. No explanation, nothing at all. You know, we were all women in various states of undress, and there was no warning given in advance. when I got home, I looked up Kitziot Prison, which is a fairly newish prison in the Negev Desert. It's about 20 kilometers away from the Dimona nuclear plant. Of course, Israel refuses to discuss anything to do with its nuclear plant,
Yes. Yes.
but um, all the prison staff were on radiation tablets,
Oh,
radiation medication. So that made me wonder, maybe during the war when Iran bombed Israel, maybe they hit the plant. Maybe there was some sort of leak. I really don't know. I've been checked out with a Geiger counter to make sure that I'm not radioactive. Uh, and so far, my health has remained good. But it was a very unpleasant, deeply unpleasant experience, and but absolutely nothing compared to what the Palestinians are put through.
yes. Yes.
Um, you know, as I say, I looked at the record of Kitziot. People have been murdered there by the prison staff. People have been raped, abused, um, spied on. There's all sorts of unethical things have happened in that prison, and stealing and looting. And, that's the prison guards, not
Yes.
the prisoners. So, but it was a deeply unpleasant place. Nobody was in charge. It was absolutely chaotic. The Israelis didn't seem to know what they were doing. Um, they just seemed in a permanent state of confusion. Um, I think that they wanted to be more hands-on with us, whatever that would mean, but they were very wary because the majority of us were Westerners,
Yes.
and these prison officers were all people of color. Um, and they weren't the Ashkenazi white European Jews who were guarding us. These were the people, they refused to be called the apartheid state, but these are the people on the lower rung
Yes.
of the class system in operation in Israel.
Dr. Ridley, I've spoken to other individuals and other activists who were on Global Sumud Flotilla. One of those activists were Senator Mushtaq from Pakistan,
Yeah.
and in a conversation with Senator Mushtaq, I was told that the male prisoners and the male activists who were taken from or kidnapped from Flotilla, there were reports that they were also beaten, they were also tortured, and different torture techniques were used on them for interrogation purposes. How true is that?
Yes, we heard the same. Certainly, the South Africans were treated on a different level to the rest of us. Of course, South Africa has led the way in the international criminal courts in its bid to have Netanyahu and Itkavad Ben Gvir prosecuted as war criminals. The only boat that was deliberately sunk on the flotilla was the South African boat. So the South Africans were given special treatment by the Israelis. Um, and also on our boat, we were the only Arab boat, and one of our crew was Nigerian. He was given a rough time. and the Arabs in particular were given a bad time. They were on the Libyan boat, the Omar al-Mokhtar. So, even in prison, there was a degree of racism at play. And of course, South Africans can recognize this immediately.
Yes.
There was a Jewish girl in our group, and she was told if she didn't behave, she would be gassed.
Oh,
And that is astonishing
yes.
to hear that. There was another woman who was a cancer survivor. She had had a double mastectomy. And when some people were, I don't know how they decided who would have a shower and who wouldn't, but her particular cell were able to have a shower. And while she was washing herself in the shower, obviously she's um, a cancer survivor, and the female Israeli prison officers made fun of her. Now, I don't know anywhere in the world where one woman would mock and scorn a breast cancer sufferer,
Yeah.
survivor. It was atrocious. Um, the whole place lacked any humanity at all.
We all know that the plight of Palestinians, and we have seen evidence of it on social media, on mainstream media. Uh, were you able to talk to any Palestinian prisoners while you were a captive, or was there any sort of access, or were you able to get some sort of idea as to how the Palestinian prisoners are being treated there?
No, we had no access to them. We didn't see any of them. We only saw each other. They kept the men and women segregated, and occasionally we would see the men if we had a meeting with a consular official. Um, for me, that happened on two occasions, and otherwise, we wouldn't see anybody. We were able to communicate with other members of the flotilla through the open windows. So we could communicate down the line from cell to cell and get messages coming back. But it was very difficult to, we didn't have access to any writing materials, probably because we would try and paint Free Palestine on the inside of the
Cell, the inside.
of the cell walls, but the cell walls had some sort of anti-paint or anti-graffiti marks on them. But again, that we still overcame those problems, and we still managed to put Free Palestine up, and so there were very small little victories that we had, but we got just a tiny sliver of what life must be like for the Palestinians. And of course, there are children
Yes.
in these cells as well. And in fact, in the exercise yard, there was a sign saying children under the age of 14 were not allowed to exercise. And I, just thought, what sort of a prison is this that holds children under 14? But
Mhm.
we didn't see any Palestinians at all.
All right.
Senator Mushtaq, um, he and I both refused to sign a document which would have been both of us admitting that we entered Israel illegally. And I think he had the same opinion as me, as how the hell can we enter Israel illegally when we were kidnapped and dragged here?
Right. Yes.
And we were both told, sign this document, otherwise you'll have 8 years in prison. But like many others, we refused to sign. And so, credit where it's due. He held quite firm, and it is important to remember that we didn't get to deliver the aid, but nor did we fail in our mission. We had over 30,000 supporters around the world, and the trade unionists, the dockyard workers in Italy, brought Europe to a standstill when we were kidnapped. So, what the world learned was a lesson in what happens when people come together in solidarity. And we overcame the leaders, the European leaders, and each step of our journey was a victory, which is why most of us will be back on the water again in 2026 for another flotilla. Only this one will be bigger and stronger. And if we are going to have any naval escorts, I hope they do more than the Italian, Spanish, and whatever other navy was out there, who stood back and did nothing to stop us from being kidnapped.
Dr. Riley, I would really like to thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And I've seen bravery on many occasions, but the sort of bravery that the activists at Flotilla showed, it's unprecedented. And thank you for raising the issue of Palestinians, and thank you for raising the voice for Gazans. So thank you once again, and thank you so much.